a great honor to be here. We consider the recovery panel the heart and soul of the Holistic Holiday at Sea Cruise. So it's now February 17th. We're here in the Caribbean with a group of very courageous, wonderful people who will be sharing their very personal experiences. Each one will have a period of time to tell their story. Hold your questions until the end. We'll have a question and answer period. You'll be able to speak to a specific person or to the whole panel. You can see there are quite a few people, and I'd like to thank all of them for taking their time and sharing the very personal experiences. So thank you all. Following this session, Judy McKinney, if you raise your hand, Judy, she'll be leading an after recovery panel session for further questions. So look in your schedule for that. It's actually, I'll tell you, tomorrow, Sunday evening at 8:30 p.m. So you'll be able to meet with many of the panel members and Judy, who will answer more of your questions. So again, thank you for coming. And I personally have a healing story. 36 years ago, I had crippling arthritis in my hips and knees, a great deal of pain, and if they had had joint replacement, I would have been a candidate. I searched and searched for the answer, wondering what was I doing? What was I doing to create this? And I was led to a clinic with Lena Stankic, who's now my husband. I married him so I could get full nutritional support. And he taught me about the plant-based diet. And I'm happy to say my bones and joints are strong. I've had evaluation, and I'm pain-free. So it's a joy to be able to heal with the plant-based diet and to avoid what for me was unnecessary surgery, although we know medicine and surgery can be miraculous as well. But let's prevent when we can. And that's basically my story. And my husband and I do teaching and counseling throughout the U.S. and Europe, and it's just been a great joy. We've been with Sandy Pupel, who is head of the cruise, back when he had a center in Coconut Grove. So we have a very long history of promoting health through the plant-based whole foods diet. So let's begin now with the rest of our wonderful panel. We need the mic up here, please. This is Roger Mully.
Hi, everybody. My name is Roger Mully. I'm 70 years old. I live in Wilmington, North Carolina. In 1981, I was accidentally exposed to mustard gas. For those who don't know what mustard gas is, it's a chemical agent that is forbidden across the world as a method of conducting war. Okay? I had a exposure. My face was 1 foot away from the explosion. There was no gas and there was no fire involved. It was just the gas. Within 5 minutes, I was numb from the waist up. I could hardly breathe. I was living in Southern California at the time. They rushed me to Fountain Valley Trauma Center, where they gave me oxygen and did whatever else they could. However, that was just the beginning. Okay. From then on, it developed into seizures, a blood pressure of 90/44. If I stood up and my head was above my heart, I would black out. Okay, I had seizures, a dropped foot, and eventually my hair fell out in clumps like I was having a haircut. So things were going not so good. I lost a pound a day. I went down to 118 pounds. I'm only 147 now, so I was a bag of bones, the ones you see in the chemistry lab, you know, when they're in the biology lab. So I eventually wound up in a bubble hospital in Texas. Everybody there was exposed to some sort of chemical. They had a no immune system. When they took my blood work, I had no T cells. I had no immune system left. And the gas had ruined my liver, my kidneys. I came down with hepatitis. It wasn't A or B. It was 1981, so I am claiming the discovery of type C hepatitis. From there, I was in the hospital for about 6 weeks. You don't get better in 6 weeks, unfortunately. They taught me how to get better. Organic food, rotate your food, because I was allergic to every food. If I ate the food, within 10 minutes, it was coming out the way it went in. So there was nothing sustaining me. Eventually, the insurance company got fed up with paying all the bills, and the doctor said they couldn't keep me. I was sent home with a mask. I went home, everybody on each side of me. I was now a universal allergic reactor. I was literally allergic to everything, even cotton. So if it had an odor, it would almost knock me out. I was sent home with a mask. My neighbor on the left side of me was spraying their garbage cans with pine soil. The one on the right side was painting their house, and the one behind me was spraying their yard for ants. I turned yellow again from the hepatitis. My sister was a nurse. She said, "We have to get you out of here." They called up the hospital. The hospital said the insurance is not going to pay. They put me on a plane with a mask. They sent me to what I call a leper colony of universal allergic reactors. We were on 600 acres of land, no chemicals, no nothing. We lived in metal boxes. The only thing in my little metal box was a metal bed, a cotton blanket as the mattress, and a rolled up towel for my head. I spent 6 months there. I was on a rotational organic food diet, and by a miracle of God, I was 35 years old. I exercised, I stimulated the body. It was the only thing. I had 3 children and a wife who were waiting for me to come home, and I couldn't come home because my immune system was gone. I started developing pain in my jaw. I became allergic to all of the fillings in my mouth, so I had to have surgery that all the mercury fillings had to be taken out. But from that, I did get better in a year and a half, and I was doing well for about 11 years, and then I was feeling so well I went off with the diet. Bad news. Relapse number 1. Same thing happened again. Felt better. Was good for about 10 more years. Went off the diet again. Relapse number 2. Now you can all call me Mr. Knucklehead if you'd like. I will accept the praise if you like. But here I am. I can actually call myself Mr. Miracle of God. I shouldn't be standing here. Most people die with a 3 or 4 second whiff of mustard gas. They're usually fried, but I'm here, and I thank God for it. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger. This is Sheldon Rice.
Hello. Well, I've passed my 82nd birthday. Anyway, about 30 years ago, I started macrobiotics, and I started macrobiotics because it was a good idea. And I didn't realize just how much I needed it. And I continued it, and I felt great, except that my bladder, I had a problem with my bladder. And the problem kept getting worse, but I kept ignoring it. And in the meantime, a year and a half passed by, and my bladder kept getting worse. I ended up in diapers. One day I took a look and my toes turned black. And then I thought, maybe it's time to go to a doctor. So I did, and of course it didn't take long before I was in the hospital. And they took tests and of course found out that I had a growth. And the growth was somewhere between the bladder and spine. So the radiologist came around and said, look, we're going to take a biopsy. And she described this biopsy. And she said, there's this long needle, and it's deep in, and they're going to do this, that, and the other. And I kept asking questions, and the radiologist got mad at me because I was asking too many questions. So I figured if that's the case, I called up my wife and I said, you know what, I'm going home. I don't need this test. So I went home. And that's what I did. And in the meantime, of course, I went to Monsieur Kushi, and I had consultations, and I was really careful. And I kept eating and eating and then chewing and chewing and eating and you know, and I kept you know, oh, and by the way, I lost 70 pounds. And I lost the 70 pounds until I ended up in the hospital. And those 70 pounds stayed off for quite some time. And then about a year later, I took another scan, and the scan showed that there was no change. Well, no change, that's pretty good. I mean, considering that I didn't have any medical treatment. And as a matter of fact, I had started taking tests. Why? Because somebody told me maybe it's a good idea if you take tests. So I started taking tests. So every time I would take a test, there was something else wrong. So finally I asked the doctor, tell me, you know, every time I come to you, there's something else wrong. Maybe it has to do with the way I'm eating. So he said, I don't know. I mean, he didn't really know what the heck I was doing. So I said, if you don't know, I don't know. I haven't taken the test in 30 years since then. That was the last test they ever took. Anyway, to make a long story short, it took me a long time. And in 1990, before I returned to Israel, I finally took another scan. And it was gone. There was nothing left. But yes, it was food. But I got to tell you, it's a lot more than food. Because I did all kinds of things besides food. I changed my life. I changed my wife. I changed my life. And I did all kinds of things. For example, I never thought about my illness. During the time I was healing, all I could think about was wellness. I was thinking, and I would get up every morning and I would focus on the now, and I went to work every day. And I changed, and I stopped being a victim, and I stopped thinking about, you know, poor me, and I changed my whole lifestyle. And I let go. That's the most important two words in the English language. Letting go of crap, frankly, of things that you hold on to and you don't really need. But of course it took me a long time to figure it out. And I never really understood just how much I had let go and how important that was in my healing. So yes, food is great. And I've been macrobiotic ever since. Because it's good. I like the food, and it makes me feel good. But it's more than that. It's cleaning up your mind. The alarm went off.
This is Shannon Farrell. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Shannon Farrell. I'm 48 years young, and I'll be proud to tell my age. I am a registered nurse, and I run a cardiac rehabilitation unit for Beaumont Health, which is in southeastern Michigan. I see about 40 to 50 patients a day. The only form of nutrition I teach is plant-based, because to me it only makes sense. I'm not going to lead my patients down the wrong path. 9 years ago, was in a wheelchair. I took 26 medications. I was given less than 5 years to live. I was diabetic. I had aggressive lupus. My triglycerides peaked at 459. I did not have feeling in my legs or my feet, and I also lost the ability to digest foods. So I developed extensive neuropathy, very ill. And so the only thing was is a lot of doctors kept just passing me around, passing me around. Nobody wanted to fix me. The solution was to give me more medications. And I said, no, I'm going to take my own health into my hands and I'm going to heal me. So right now I take 3 medications. I've lost 85 pounds. I do not have lupus anymore. I do not have diabetes. My triglycerides are 129. I ran a half marathon. And my 2 coworkers, thank you. My coworkers are 25. They had to go plant-based to keep up with me. So I actually love being plant-based. My children are plant-based. I call my son the reluctant vegan because he's not really there. But in Michigan, we have the plant-based nutrition support group. We have 4,800 members. I joined them very quick after they formed. I was instrumental in starting 34 small groups throughout the state of Michigan, including an American Sign Language. So there are people out there. I really encourage you to seek these out. I just agreed to take on the 13th nurse I'm mentoring. She's lost 47 pounds in 2 months. And the cardiologist that runs my unit, her entire family is plant-based. So I encourage people to reach out. Right now I have 200 requests from nurses and other health systems who want me to help them to change. What I can advise people is be a pillar of positivity. Don't judge people. We're all on our own journey. Nutrition is a very personal journey. It gets rooted in our childhood. And when patients come into the unit, I will say, I try to figure out what got them to that weight. Then I'll say, if we go to Overeaters Anonymous, we'll try that. So, give people, be positive. Change is great. I mean, I feel amazing. We have Dr. Joel Kahn will be here. He talks a lot about cholesterol and everything like that. I encourage people to attend his lecture. We've had some amazing people come to Michigan, so I've met them all, including Doug. I met at Plantstock here a few years ago. So please seek resources. There's help for people out there that need it. I have no pain. I have no depression. I don't have any disordered eating. I don't respond to food addictions anymore, and I mean, I only take 3 medications, so it's amazing. So thank you.
This is Doug Schmidt.
Hi, I'm Doug Schmidt. I'm a teacher in upstate New York for 1st through 3rd graders. I've been doing that for the past 20 plus years. And I'm 59 now, at age 49, I had a heart attack in my lower anterior descending artery, which is also called the widowmaker because only 90% of people who have a heart attack there survive. So I was one of the lucky 10%. At that time, I said, what are these drugs they're putting me on? Because they put you on a whole battery of drugs. And I said, these are for people in their 70s, 80s, not somebody in their 40s. So I went looking, and the first thing I found was Dr. Caldwell Esselstyn's book, Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease. So I read it, and I said, give up all these things? That's too extreme. So I went to next best thing I thought was the American Heart Association diet. They said I could have 4 eggs a week and lean meats and chicken and all this. Sounds great. We moved to a small 8-acre farm, my wife Sherry and I. We had our own chickens, grew our own food. And I had 2 eggs a week instead of the 4 the American Heart Association said I could have from my own chickens. How much better could that be? But a year later, I ended up in the hospital with another scare. Luckily, at that time, they didn't stent. They said, you have some blockages, 60% or so. We'll just watch and see. So things started being more serious in my mind. Then I was on statins. And the first statin they put me on caused plantar fasciitis. The second one caused my toes to splay like I felt like I was 90, not 50. So my doctor said we can either put you on another statin, which we know you don't do well on, or you can do it all by diet. And at that point, that's when Caldwell Esselstyn came back into the picture. I started following his protocol, whole food, plant-based, no oil. All of a sudden, the weight started dropping off. I was 225. Today, I'm 165. I dropped 60 pounds. And I had so much energy after this that I couldn't sleep at night. So when I met Shannon, I had just started running to burn off some energy. And last year, at the age 58, 59, 59 now, 58, I ran 2 half marathons and a full marathon. It doesn't quite end there, though. As in my district, I'm also a health and wellness coordinator. And for the past 3 years, I've led a 10-day Jumpstart Your Health program based on Rip Esselstyn's book, The 7-Day Engine 2 Rescue. This year, I was asked by a consortium of other school districts, would you run this for the administrators? And it would be about 200 administrators. I say, well, why don't we open it up to everyone? And we did. And I led a 10-day Jumpstart Your Health plan for 1,300 people in 35 school districts across New York State. We were on Good Morning America, so you can Google that, Doug Schmidt 1300, and that'll pop up. And out of those, in 10 days, we saw people drop their total cholesterol 100 points. Lost, on the average, 4 to 6 pounds. I myself, my total cholesterol is 120. And Dr. Esselstyn says that if you're under 150, you're basically heart attack proof. The only reason I'm on this cruise today, too, a little aside, is this year I was selected as PETA's sexiest vegan over 50.
That's a tough one to follow. There's another teacher, Tracy Fettinger.
Hi guys! Like she said, I'm Tracy Fettinger and I am 42, and if you have had dinner with me, you've probably already heard my story. I was practicing the 5-minute rule and I think I've gotten it down. So basically in 2011, I was diagnosed with MS. At the time, my sister was going to school to be a nurse, and every project she did it on MS because it was something personal to her, because I had just been diagnosed. And so she would send me little articles here and there and kind of piqued my interest. I started doing my own research. But when you have MS, they put you on medication really quickly once they diagnose it. And so I was very fortunate that I was diagnosed fairly early. I've met many people who've been 20 or more years before they got their diagnosis, but my doctor told me I'd be on medication for the rest of my life. And the medication and I did not get along very well. And if you know anyone with MS, when you take an MS drug, you have this side effect, so then they give you this pill. And then you have this side effect, so they give you this pill. And before you know it, and I know plenty of people who take 15, 20 pills every day, and they can't even tell you what each of them does. So I just have always felt very strongly that medicine has its place, but your body was not meant to operate on drugs its whole life. And so I started doing a little bit more research and found that there were people controlling their MS with the whole food plant-based diet, and I said, okay, let's find out a little bit about this. I went to my doctor and told her that I was not asking for her permission, but that I was telling her my plan, and I just wanted her to know what was happening. I took 6 months to transition. I started with 1 meal a week because I had no idea what I was doing. And I wanted to make sure that I was getting all the nutrients that I needed. So over 6 months, I transitioned from 1 meal a week to totally plant-based. During that time, I knew no one who was doing it, so the internet was my best friend. Learning different things, a few websites, and all these wonderful people who have done some other research that I get to read about. But after 6 months of being totally plant-based, I went off all of my medication, and I am celebrating 5 years of absolutely no medication. Many symptoms. You might not notice it on the boat, but I used to have a lot of gait issues that I no longer have, except when the ground moves a little. But lots of things have just totally gone away, and I love being plant-based. There are things that I have learned that even if I had to go back on medication for whatever reason, I don't think I would ever eat the way that I did before. But people think I'm very extreme because I don't eat animal products. But I think being in a wheelchair and not being able to walk is pretty extreme. And I don't want that extreme. So that's my story in a nutshell.
Branson.
Hi, I'm Paula Branson, and I'm young. We have to tell our age, they said, so I'm young. Okay. So, okay, so I have a long story that I'm going to condense. I was permanently disabled for 14 years. I was never supposed to be able to get up and walk or do much of anything. And it started out from just a car accident, major whiplash, and you're supposed to heal from it. Instead, I got worse and worse and went from just whiplash, which I had pain all up here, to pain descending down my body, and then my digestive system went crazy, and I had tremendous fatigue. And this was back in the 90s. They didn't have early 90s. They didn't have a diagnosis of fibromyalgia then. So, I told them all my symptoms, but every X-ray, MRI they did, they couldn't find anything. So they said, it's in your head. 14 years later, they would find out they were correct, but not the way they thought. So they started putting me on psychiatric drugs. So I was on steroids and anti-inflammatories and muscle relaxers, and lots of ibuprofen, but then they added all the psychiatric drugs, and it took, one wouldn't work, so they'd up it, and then they'd do another one. I kept saying, but I'm not depressed. And they're like, oh, pain is a symptom of depression, and so is digestion problems. So it's like, if they don't have something that is a diagnosed disease, they say it's psychiatric. And like, I went to the top rheumatologist at Emory Medical School, and he's like, there's nothing wrong with you. You're crazy, basically. So I ended up on 18 drugs, and I slept most every day because I was so drugged up. I needed a pill to get me up in the morning, a pill to make my food digest, a pill to be able to walk from one room to the other because my fatigue was so bad, pill for everything. And I was on like 30 supplements, so many that I would just gag taking. Life was horrible. And then in 2009, they said, hey, we have this new type of MRI, let's take another MRI. And sure enough, they said, you actually had a rare condition, it's called a Chiari malformation, and when you had that rack, you impacted your brainstem. And so all this has been caused by miscommunication of your brainstem to your body, and we now have an experimental surgery. And if you don't mind the odds that so far in this experiment, 5 have died on the table, 13 have died in the hospital, and we've had this many who have become vegetables. And anyway, but they let me talk to the 2 people who had been cured, and they were cured, and I was just like, I called, and this one woman was running around Walmart with her planning a birthday party, and I started crying because I thought if I could ever run around Walmart again, that would just be the biggest gift in the whole world. And so I was seriously considering it, but I was so afraid to, I'd been in so much pain, I really did not care if I died. I really didn't, but I just didn't want to suffer even worse. So I was fortunate enough, when I went to my neurosurgeon, I always had a taxi driver who took me. Well, my taxi driver had just had a fare before me who ran a whole food plant-based institution, and he had the guy's card, and he's like, well, before you do that, why don't you go to this guy's place and get yourself healthy enough to make it through the surgery. So I was like, yes. So, and that would maybe make my odds better. So I went to this place. I was a very mainstream Western medicine kind of person. And when they told me everything they were going to do, this was not just a plant-based, it was a raw food, organic plant-based. So I actually thought I'd gotten into a cult. and I went and I said, can I please leave? And they're like, sure, but you don't get a refund. So I had to, I stayed there, and in the process, I didn't believe anything they said, but I did it anyway. And in the 3rd week, I was on a fentanyl patch. Fentanyl's 100 times stronger than morphine. The fentanyl patch came off with no pain. And then all the other drugs, gradually I would titrate down. I got off of all 18 drugs. And I never had the surgery. And I had to learn how to sit up and to walk and to run and to do everything again, but it worked. So my explanation to my doctors they do the MRI, I still have the Chiari, but it was inflamed. All of y'all have heard Dr. Greger, if you injure your shin but you hit it 3 times a day with a big hammer, it's never going to heal. Well, I had injured my brainstem, but all day long I was re-injuring it, causing more inflammation. So our bodies are made to heal itself, but the more I put in, the inflammation stayed there. Once I went on an anti-inflammatory, whole food plant-based diet, it healed itself. And I believe that this can happen with everybody. I now have become, I'm on Dr. T. Cullen Campbell's board of directors at the Center for Nutrition Studies, and I'm on Plant Pure Communities board. And I'm doing what I can, too, to help people spread the word and not end up like I did. Thank you.
John,
Thanks. My wife and I came, excuse me, my wife and I came on this cruise like 3 years ago in 2015, and we went to the recovery panel and we were blown away. Now, I told my wife, I said, I'm not worthy to be on this panel. But I'm here anyway.
How old are you?
I'm getting there. Was that Jack? Did you do that, Jack? No. Anyway, so here's my story. And again, I've heard 2 stories in the last 2 dinners we've had here that blow my story away. We came 10 years ago in January of 2010. I weighed 260 pounds. I was on the table, if you look, on that table, I was on the borderline of being morbidly obese. I also was in a situation where I knew I was going to need to start looking for another position because what was happening at my firm was not going well for my practice group. And so I decided I need to lose some weight. I need to look better for an interview. And so what I did, I had a friend of mine who said, no, you need to go on a vegan diet. He happened to give me Dr. Furman's Eat to Live diet. I went on Dr. Furman's diet, wanting to lose 30, 35 pounds, and basically within 6 weeks I lost 28. I said, this is going great. By the end of that year, 9 months later, I'd lost 100 pounds. Dr. Furman's book says, if you stay on the diet, if you stay eating this way, it's not a diet, it's a way of life. If you stay eating this way, when you reach your ideal weight, you'll stop losing weight. Stop losing weight in December. I looked at the actuarial tables. Guess what? For a man my size, build, height, I was the perfect weight. So that's choice number 1 that I made. My talk's a little bit different because I'm talking about choices I made that then resulted in a recovery that was not nearly as difficult as these. Choice number 2. So I felt great. I felt great. You know, my statins for 15 years, I stopped taking those. My arthritis in my knees was good enough I could go up and down stairs. Felt well enough taking 100 pounds off these knees, did marvelous. I still didn't feel really good. My wife, who was going to, I don't know what you want to call him, a longevity doctor, an anti-aging doctor, said, you need to go see the doctor and see if you need hormone replacement therapy. Because I looked at the symptoms of low T on the internet. I had every one of them. Went to the doctor, he started me on bioidentical hormone replacement therapy. Best medical decision I'd ever made, right? So I started feeling great. Positive, my depression left. I felt positive, I felt more energy than ever before. Choice number 2 then was hormone replacement therapy. Choice number 3, after losing 100 pounds, my dear sweet wife, Jennifer, sitting here in the fuchsia, I think that's fuchsia. I'm colorblind. Choice number 3 was ever since I'd lost that 100 pounds, she would tell me, you need to tone up. I said, wait, isn't losing 100 pounds enough? No, you need to tone up. Well, I ignored that because that's the kind of person I am. Until I found myself in Johannesburg, South Africa on a work assignment where I was really bored. I had plenty of free time. I said, okay, maybe, and I'm not going home every week because it's 24 hours. So the first Saturday I was there, I went to the gym, I bought gym clothes, I started working out. Worked out 5 years since that day, twice a day. I do 2 a days. Work out, third best decision I ever made. After we came on the cruise in 2015, I got a minute, after we came on the cruise in 2015, I was in March, went home, in May, I had a heart attack. Everybody said, wait a minute, you're the healthiest person I know, your diet. I said, no. Listen to these guys, the doctors we've heard, I was paying for past sins. So the amazing thing is this. I didn't have a long recovery. They first told me I'd be in the hospital 4 days. After 2 days, they said, you want to go home? I said, yeah, I want to go home. A month later, after an echocardiogram stress test, my doctor said, you had no damage to your heart. You are a clean bill of health, and today I continue to try. So my recovery was almost easy because of the 3 choices I'd made. 1, eating a healthy diet. 2, hormone replacement therapy. And 3, a vigorous exercise program. Thanks.
Thank you for that. Our next speaker is Judy McKinney.
Hello everyone, it's exciting to be here. Just that this is my 26th year of being free of non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I was diagnosed and I was 49 years old, so I'm 76 now. And it just blew me away. Jackie Onassis had the same disease I had, and I thought, there's a chance here, that she'll live, and I'm going to find how she did it. Unfortunately, she passed. And when I went to my doctors, that were wonderful doctors in Boston, very fine people, they told me that they would put me on chemotherapy, and it would give me a little time with my family. I just had recently two grandchildren born at our home, and now I'm going to be dying. It's like I was not ready for that. I was very happily married with a husband. In fact, I still am. He's the greatest guy. And it just blew us away that I was that ill. I'd also run a full-time business. I was a dress designer, and I used to custom make dresses and gowns and specialty clothes for people. And it was just a great creative joy for me. And I had to close my business. Luckily, I had 2 ladies come to my house just 2 weeks before I had to actually close, to say they could take over the work that I had started for other women who were getting married, and that they would help me get it all together. And these 2 angels that came into my life. And so I was able to actually close my business and then start to get into the treatments and all. The treatments gave me all kinds of side effects, and just naturally take chemotherapy. It was so great for the gut at all. But it may kill cancer, so we decided we would do that. And I got terrible neuropathy, so I walked around my home on the sides of my feet. My friends were all compassionate. I had lovely, lovely people and friends that were there for me. And I can remember getting up one night and that I was really at a real, very low point. And I tried very hard to keep my morale up, because that's who I basically am. But it was very concerning for what I had gone through. And I had a light come into my living room. Now, I lived way up on a hill that there was absolutely no way a light could come into the room. And I was in sheer pain and agony, just laying there on the couch. And I just thought, oh my goodness, I'm so close. It's the doctors are telling me there is no cure for me. That when I went to go see my x-ray, and I was excited because it looked like it was shrinking a bit, the doctor said, I'm sorry, you've been doing this for 7 months, but there is nothing more we can offer you. You need to understand this is giving you time with your family, and this is your end. And so he didn't quite use that word, but it was close. And so this time I was laying on the couch, and this light came to me, and that light is a very special light in my heart, because all the pain that I was feeling just stopped. Right there on the spot. And I looked around, because we live so far up on a hill, there's no way a light could be in the room. Absolutely none. And there it was hovering around me. And I realized something very special was given to me, a real gift. And I just embraced it. And my husband was so supportive to me, my whole family was. And I just decided I had to do something else. And so I decided that I would choose a vegan or a macrobiotic diet. And that's what I turned to. And in that process, I learned how to eat food so differently, all plant-based, and learned how to strengthen my blood. And it did take time, but I was determined. And I went to see a counselor, which I am myself now, and very proud to be that, to work with people who are in that situation. Because all of us here have had experiences that we can help all of you to recover or to support your health in a better way. And so it's been a real blessing to me to have worked with my husband. We both changed our lives completely and the way we ate. And our family all watched us do these crazy things, but they supported us. And here I am today, 26 years later. And I'm basically a very healthy person. And I just know that changing our diet is so important. And also the spiritual part of it is very huge. And the family and loved ones around you are just such a gift. And that to be able to eat the nourishing foods and the plant-based foods are so, so important to us. That, just keep living your life and keep working at it and spreading the word. Because this is the answer to have a healthy body. So I thank you very much.
And we have Virginia Harper. Hi, I'm Virginia Harper. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And when I was 19, I was at the University of Tennessee, and I was a gymnast, and I had a stroke. And I was paralyzed on my right side and lost my ability to speak. And there was no reason why I should have had a stroke. I was a young person in college. Of course, now I know it's the college food that didn't help. But they ran tests and they found I had a blood disease called Takayasu's arteritis, which was very rare. They had no cure for me. They didn't know why I got it. And I was living in Connecticut. I went home that holiday season, and as I progressed with this disease, I began having other symptoms digestive-wise. And pretty soon I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease on top of it, another autoimmune condition. So for 7 years, I was in and out of hospitals. I was laying around in pain, swollen, pre-diabetic. The drugs were causing a lot of side effects, and arthritis, swollen joints, all that. And I was born in Chile, and I was raised in Chile. And I can remember my grandmother going to the yard and the kitchen to get remedies. And as the doctors were proposing colon surgery and start cutting on me, I said, no, let's find something else. And at the time, living in Connecticut, we were hearing about macrobiotics and classes and things. And by then I was already living in Tennessee, but my dad heard about macrobiotics and he said, you have to try this. It's food and it's going in your body and it makes sense. So I said, sure, I'll give it a few weeks. I was already scheduled for surgery. So I told my doctor I kind of wanted to postpone it, and he threw a fit because, my gosh, macrobiotics, that's not scientifically proven, you're gonna hurt yourself. And through tears I said, look at me now, I have to do something. And just that determination of trying to take care of myself in a different way gave me a newness for life instead of feeling so much like a victim. And I started chewing, I started drinking my miso soup and eating all these weird terminologies I couldn't even pronounce. And little by little, my body began responding very quickly. So in 9 months of me beginning the program after being sick and in and out of hospitals hooked up to IVs for 7 years, in 9 months, all my symptoms were going away quickly. And my blood work was showing up. And as I have practiced and journeyed through my health, with my health, all these years, and I've been doing this over 40 years now, you know, I've learned that it doesn't make you bulletproof, because health is something you always have to work on, but it sure makes you resilient. And this is what we see here on the panel today of all these examples. So as other problems have arisen for me, health-wise, the fear isn't there. It's just information how I need to adjust. So the surgery they did on my neck to clear up the disease I had in my vessels, you know, here 2 years ago I had to repeat that because so much scar tissue had built up. And in their eyes it was an emergency,
your arteries 80% closed up. We need to go in there immediately. But I found a doctor who would work with me. And I said, I need time to prepare for the surgery. And he worked with me, he took my blood test, and he said, your blood viscosity is so good that yes, we can wait on this. So he allowed me to prepare for the surgery. And 2 years ago, when I had to have total replacement of my right carotid artery, I was also expected to be in the hospital quite a few days. I came home in 24 hours with no blood thinners. 4 hours of carotid surgery and no blood thinners because my blood viscosity was so good. So the last 40 years that I've done this, like many of us, we want to give back. I teach and counsel in Nashville, work a lot with children because Crohn's and colitis is a young people's disease, teach parents how to feed their children right, and just really, I do a 10-day residential program at my home, and when it's hands-on and you get the supportive family, and you have the mindset of not being a victim, but this is information, how to really care for your body, then the rest is the miracle of our bodies healing themselves. Thank you.
Next is Sherilyn Cardinelli.
Yes, hi, my name is Sheila Cardinale. I've had the privilege of being a operating room nurse for the past 39 years. I also write weekly articles in my local paper. The reason why I'm up here speaking today is not because of my story, but in the fall of 2009, my son Daniel, who had just graduated from high school, 18 years old, was in a near-fatal car accident. It was devastating. Joseph Life had to take him out. His car was on fire. Angels were there to get him out. I wasn't there. I got the phone call the next morning because I was with my daughter in Pennsylvania taking care of her because she was pregnant with my third grandchild. We rushed to New York City. They did the initial surgery because when they first found him, his bones were protruding from his legs. And they were waiting for the surgeon so they wouldn't have to amputate, but hopefully put the bones back. He had crushed his pelvis, he broke both legs, he tore the ligaments in his feet. It was a mess. He went in for his first surgery. When he came out, he was still on a respirator. They found out during the surgery that he had lung contusions, rib fractures. It was a mother's nightmare, secondary to losing their child, so I can only imagine. Every night I stayed there. I was carrying on a vigil in the intensive care unit. I wasn't going to leave his side. They tried weaning him. They couldn't successfully. One of my neighbors who had heard what had happened, we're a very close-knit beach community, called. She said she knew a doctor in California who knew a lot about healing the body, which I didn't know. Being a nurse, you don't learn those things in nursing school. This doctor called me, and I don't know if any of you have children, but you'll do just about anything. And it was a bizarre idea to me that food could heal anything, but he was still on a respirator, and I shared that with the doctor. He said, well, that doesn't matter. As soon as he gets off, you need to get him on a whole food plant-based diet. They can actually surgically repair every single bone in his body, but being on a respirator, the body becomes very weak and acidic and bones deteriorate, which I understood as the orthopedic operating room nurse that I was, but I was thinking like the mom, not like the nurse. Well, he came off the respirator after 10 days. He had to go into a nursing home. I started the whole food plant-based diet. They had originally told me that to prepare myself and my son because he'd probably never walk again, and if he did, it would be at least a year of intense physical therapy. And I didn't dispute that. I was an orthopedic operating room nurse. I did trauma. I did elective surgery for total joint replacements. Well, needless to say, 2 months to the date that my son was admitted to the nursing home, he walked out, no limp, nothing. I didn't, you know what, I didn't think it was the food, I just thought it was God, and you know what, I give thanks to God every day, but I know it's the food because He's given us the food to eat. When my sister-in-law heard my son's story, she called me. She has something called pulmonary hypertension. Now that's when the heart and lungs, the pressures are uneven, and she was only 44 years old. She was a good candidate for a lung transplant. She was supposed to have a lung transplant up at New York Presbyterian Hospital, where we are. Well, I started working with her, and literally 3 months to the date that she went on this whole food, plant-based diet, which was still very foreign to me, Her doctor had reassured her that everything looked good. She didn't need her lung transplant. She came off of most of her medications. And that's when I went back to school in my 50s, and I'm now finishing up to become a nurse practitioner in holistic health. And I want to thank you all for being here, and I would implore you to help me with my goal to restore health and hope around the world.
Next we have Peg Harvey, excuse me. Peg Harvey.
Thank you. My name is Peg Harvey. I live in San Diego, and I am 66 and still in the mix of life, and happy to be so. In 2008, I was diagnosed with stage 4 uterine cancer, and I was treated by a conventional oncologist. I do what most people do. I got on the assembly line. So the assembly line with stage 2 uterine cancer is a radical hysterectomy followed by 35 rounds of pelvic radiation. At the end of my treatments, the radiation oncologist said to me, just go back to doing what you were doing, which I interpreted literally as go back to eating what you were eating, drinking what you were drinking, and thinking what you were thinking. So I followed the doctor's orders. And I learned 16 months later that when nothing changes, nothing changes. Because a routine chest x-ray revealed that the cancer had metastasized to both lungs. So in 2010, I had a lemon-sized tumor in my left lung near my heart, a walnut-sized tumor at the back of my right lung, and CAT scan revealed that I had innumerable tiny tumors spread throughout both lungs. This was stage 4 cancer. First and second opinion oncologists said, there's nothing we can do, and frankly, there's nothing you can do. Chemotherapy would slow the progression of the tumors. It would make you really sick for 6 months and only extend your life by 4. Now, I'm good at math, and that didn't sound like a very good mathematical proposition. They said radiation would also slow the growth of the tumors, wouldn't be a cure. You would be trailing an oxygen cylinder behind you in the 9 to 18 months that we expect you to live. They said surgery, absolutely out of the question. Lemon-sized tumor, too close to your heart, innumerable tiny tumors we couldn't get. I said, well, what can I do? What can I do? They said, just go on cruises. Drink fine wine. Eat whatever you want because food doesn't matter. Food doesn't matter. So I went home and I did what any reasonable woman who was married to an Irish gentleman would do. I crawled under the covers in deep denial and I said to my husband, bring me the largest bottle of Jameson's Irish whiskey that you can find. And he did. And I self-medicated for 6 days. In bed, in shock, not a word about terminal cancer, because to say it out loud to my kids or my siblings or my friends would make it real. And I was far from wanting it to be real. On the 6th day, I emerged. I got out of bed. I said, I'm going to church. I'm going to out myself to my faith community. And then we're going to walk across the street to the farmer's market and get some good produce because I'm starving. I've only had whiskey for 6 days. So, went to church. 250 people started praying for me. I used the word terminal cancer. Walked across the street to the farmer's market. All of our produce was purchased. Car was over there. My husband said, we got to go down this row of vendors. I said, but our car is over there. I'm tired. Let's go home. He said, no, got to go down this last row of vendors. Went down the last row of vendors. Encountered a man selling wheatgrass. Didn't say anything to this man. He looked directly at me and said, if I had a serious health condition, I would go to the Optimum Health Institute in Lemon Grove. It's a holistic healing center. Mind, body, and spirit, raw vegan diet, wheatgrass juice, meditation, spiritual activities. I went there, did the program in a very determined and sustained way. No cheats, shortcuts, or compromises except for that one bag of family-sized Lay's potato chips. My results? Unbelievable, unbelievable what these lifestyle changes could do. In 8 weeks, the lemon-sized tumor was gone. In 19 weeks, the cancer, stage 4, supposed to live 9 months, completely gone. Last November, I celebrated my 7-year cancerversary. I went on to work for the Health Institute, sharing my story, my personal motto now, heal, share, and inspire. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Next, we have Joel.
Hi everyone, my name is Joel Grace. I'm 36 years old and I'm from Australia. And almost 5 years ago, I was diagnosed with a pretty aggressive cancer. I had stage 3 metastatic melanoma. And I was only given a 10 or 15% chance of survival. So pretty grim statistics that you don't really want to hear when you're 31 years old. But that is, the thing is, I know how I got into that situation. I used to live a life where I ate a standard Australian diet, which is very similar to the standard American diet. So I thought I was healthy, eating frozen pizza, frozen wedges, bags of chips, with a handful of greens, thinking that's going to counter everything. But it doesn't, it catches up with you eventually. I was on every medication under the sun. I was always on antibiotics, anti-anxieties, antidepressant medications, steroid medications, because I was just the sort of person that the doctor said, we're not going to be able to help you, here's some medication. So at the start of 2013, I decided I had enough of all this. I'm going to go cold turkey off all medication and start a juice and a smoothie fast. So at this stage, I didn't know I had cancer. I did 10 days of just green juices, green smoothies, felt fantastic. But by the end of January that month, I started getting a lump in my neck. And I thought, surely this is just the toxins that I'm expelling out of my body that have been building up over the last few years. But I thought, I'll go and see a conventional GP just to see what's going on here. Immediately they want to do a biopsy. I already knew enough about natural health that I didn't want to get a biopsy done in case it was cancerous and it could cause some cancer cells to spread. So I found a holistic GP instead. And he said, yeah, no, don't get a biopsy, wait and see what happens. Go over and work in Singapore for 5 months, come home, the lump's bigger. He says, now's the time to get a biopsy. Turns out that it is actually cancer. So I spend about half an hour all up, curled up on the couch in tears, upset about what my short life is going to bring. And then I thought, look, crying on the couch isn't going to get me healthy, but changing to a plant-based diet, getting up and doing some walking in some sunshine, getting some fresh air, doing some meditation, these are all life-affirming things that are going to give me a better chance of survival. My surgeon said to me at that time, don't bother changing your diet, it won't work. So I ignored him, luckily. I was adamant that I didn't want to do chemo, but I did have some surgery and a short course of radio because I had 4 tumours in my neck. The biggest was 2.5 inches. So I had 44 lymph nodes removed from my neck as well. But other than that, everything else has been a holistic journey for me. So immediately overnight, I changed my diet to all organic, all raw, all vegan. I was juicing wheatgrass every day. I still have up to 1 litre of fresh organic cold pressed juice every day. I just did everything I could to detoxify my body. So I was doing a lot of coffee enemas, 2 to 4 coffee enemas a day just to support my liver detoxification, and doing a lot of colonics as well. Actually, I did so many colonics that I've actually opened my own colonic clinic, just so I can get the benefits myself, but also so that I can help people in the way that I was helped. I did a lot of intravenous vitamin C and glutathione therapy, so I chose to do that instead of doing chemo. But as a few other panelists have said as well, it's not just about what you're putting into your body. Diet is a very important part in healing. But there's other ways that I got cancer as well. It wasn't just my diet. It was the thoughts that were going through my mind. It was the inactivity that I was a couch potato. I was 255 pounds, now I'm about 190. So I got down to the beach and started meditating every day, putting my feet in some grass or some sand every day, getting up and doing some exercise every single morning. Just radical life changes that would have required when you get a diagnosis that's as grim as mine was. So there's basically two things that I tell people these days if they're looking at making a change for their health. The first one is start early. So you can imagine, out of all the people that I know that have been diagnosed with cancer, the ones that have the best chance of success are the ones that integrate a plant-based lifestyle very early on in the picture. The other great advice is stick to it. As most of us have experienced in the past, actually one of my favourite quote is, the price of freedom is eternal vigilance. And that's essentially how I live my life these days. It's the reason why I still live how I live and eat what I eat, because I can't afford to go back to what my life used to be like, because that's the environment where cancer grew. So my main aim now is just living in an environment where cancer can't grow.
Thank you very much. Next is Sandy Club.
Hello, and thanks for being here. Those are great stories, very inspiring. Makes mine not so great, but I think it is, but I'm still here. I was diagnosed in 2007 with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was the unhealthy person, because my friends, it kind of freaked them out when I got sick, because it was like, gosh, we have no choice, because I was supplementation, I didn't eat plant-based, but I thought I ate well. And when I got the diagnosis, I had a funky lymphoma, or pneumonia kept getting, so I went through an open lung biopsy to find the cancer. In the meantime, I'd already started changing, because I'd gone into respiratory failure, which was the warning sign, and put into an isolation unit down in the hospital. And so when I got diagnosed, it was obviously a shock. So I immediately went cold turkey, because I knew what to do because of what I did as a profession, but I never thought it was going to happen to me. So, and you've heard that before. So I did comprehensive juicing. I had a naturopath, a Chinese doctor, and my oncologist on my team. My oncologist, I went in early and gave him a diet that I wanted to follow. I wanted to starve the cancer. And I kind of searched out people that had beaten it. I really didn't have a lot of attention for people that had theory. I wanted to talk to people who had done it. And so that's kind of what I did. And when I did do chemo, because when I went in when they gave me my diagnosis, the doctor we said, can I get a second opinion? He said, yes, by next Wednesday. So I asked my Chinese doctor, my naturopath, said, well, what do you think I should do? And they both said, well, with that kind of cancer, we should stop it, but let's support it. And so I did biofeedback, I did a lot of energy work, and I continue to do so. And then I just continued to lead my life helping people eat most efficiently, plant-based, be sustainable, and avoid putting toxins back in after you just did all the work to take them out, and to keep as much nourishment in your food as possible. I mean, I changed juicers to get the maximum nutrition, because I wanted everything of my food. Because what I learned about the power of food was shocking to me. I knew cabbage was good because we got forced to eat it when I was a kid. But I didn't know the power that was really in food, and that is my message today, to help people realize what's in their hands and why we need to support farmers who feed cities and do clean and just kind of keep the fight going to have a clean earth, and just avoid all that other crap out there, and just to be kind to each other and to help, and everything comes back to you when you tend to do that. So thank you.
Next we have Amanda Johns.
Hey, how are you guys? Okay, I'm Amanda Johns, and about 13 years ago, I was diagnosed with congestive heart failure. And along that, they also diagnosed me with an autoimmune disorder called ITP, which is idiopathic thrombocytopenia, which means that you cannot clot blood. So I was bleeding profusely. I was pretty stubborn and didn't want to go to the hospital, and I was the person that when I found the raw food diet, I didn't know if it was a blessing or a curse. I wasn't that excited about it, but I found like all those beautiful people that you see, and you're just like, wow, they really have something that I want. So I think that's what convinced me the most, was meeting people who had went through something and then decided, hey, I'm going to change my whole life, even though my family thinks that I'm completely crazy. So anyhow, so let's see. I went to the hospital 13 years ago, but it's been like a long journey with the blood. It wouldn't regulate for a while, even though I was juicing, I was doing the raw food diet, and I think it was that whole emotional journey that really got me there, besides the food. So if you're struggling with that today, just keep going, because it will come. So let's see. I'm trying to think, because I know it's so long and I only have a short time. So let's see. So I did the whole like crawling back and forth from the bed to the toilet before I decided, hey, I should probably go to the hospital and have something done about this. I did have 1.5 liters of water removed from around my heart because my lungs were filling with fluid, so I couldn't stand, walk, function. They gave me about 3 years to live and told me without their treatments I would die. Of course, I'm stubborn, so I was just like, you know, I want to do something about this, even though I had no idea what I was going to do. So I did let them do the surgery, even though I didn't want to do it. And I did take prednisone and stuff for a while. I took myself off of it slowly, but I didn't want to take medication, and I didn't want to do what I saw other people who had the same issue go through. And so I did all that, and I went way underweight. I lost a lot of my hair because of the treatments that they gave me. They wanted me to have my spleen removed. I still have it to this day, because they were thinking that that's why the platelets were going down. The spleen was not recognizing the platelets, and it was taking them out. So I guess I had no clue how this was going to change my life forever. And so it was definitely a blessing in disguise, for sure. And then through that, it gave me my passion. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life. I had no passion. I had a whole lot of anger, all that stuff that you have to work through when you're going through this, because you're thinking to yourself, why is this happening to me? But it gave me that passion to help others. So that's what I do. I'm a restorative health instructor at the Jacksonville Health and Wellness Center. I run a business with my mom, and we do raw foods, and we sell them in a cafe in Jax. And I didn't say that before, if I'm from Jacksonville, Florida, sorry. And so we just do what we love and love what we do. And I think that if you're out here and you're trying to figure that out for your own health, it's just about that journey. So sometimes when we're in the middle of the journey, we're just kind of like, I don't know why this is happening, but it's going to bring you to something that you love. So just keep on keeping on. And I guess the only other thing that I can say is when I started the raw food diet, it did take me a little while to get the blood to regulate. And I did all the juicing, and you just get frustrated, but after a while, it helps. So that's my inspiration to you all is, you know, there's the bell. So anyhow, if you have any questions or anything, I'll be up here. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. And now we have Sally Lipsky.
One thing I found out is a plant-based diet does not cure motion sickness. So I've been sitting here getting words. If you see me with cough drop, and it's like, okay, So this is going to be very short because you've heard it all, okay? And just go plant-based, everyone. What can I say? I had late-stage ovarian cancer a month after my clean bill of health from my gynecologist. Yeah, if any women, I'm telling you. And they basically said it will be back in 2 years because there's a very high, that my type of cancer recurrency, and it's almost always diagnosed late stage because there's no way to diagnose it. Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So surgery, chemotherapy, I'm like a ticking time bomb. When's it coming back? I just happened upon David Sherman Schreiber's Anti-Cancer New Way of Life. If anybody, there was an interview in the local paper. It's sort of, whoa, you know, there's a connection here that's really, I have some control and self-empowerment, and I kept on reading. I'm going to workshops, get a certificate in plant-based nutrition, took early retirement as a professor of education at a state university, and I am now, what so many of people are doing is devoting my life to helping others as an educator and author, and I have a new book out this year to help spread the word on how you can do a plant-based diet easily, practically, and it's within reach, and it's downstairs in the bookstore, by the way. So thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And now we have, last but not least, Jim Miller.
Thank you. I'm Jim Miller. I'm from Leesburg, Florida. In 2006, I was blessed with non-Hodgkin's leukemic lymphoma, which was supposed to be a death sentence. It's the best thing ever happened to me. Disease really is just your body telling you you're doing something wrong. And if you listen to your body, you'll do something right and you'll be fine. And that's really what happened. I did the chemo thing. I was always into homeopathic and different alternative things with my wife. And but when you get the big C, I better go see a real doctor. And then they're telling me that. So I went to the real doctor, and we did chemo, and I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I couldn't make red blood cells. My red count was at 6. It's supposed to be 12 or 14. At 13 units of blood and chemo and steroids, they had me to where I was in full remission. But he says, yeah, you're in full remission now, but you'll come back, and we recommend that you get a bone marrow transplant. Found out what that is, and they were optimistic because I would have a 60 to 70% chance of survival. Survival. Their standard is that you survive 5 years. They did great. 5 years. Okay. Well, that's also 30 to 40% chance of not surviving for 5 years. And at that time, my sister-in-law had talked to me about Hippocrates Health Institute, which is raw, vegan, but it's not a cult. Anyway, and they stress wheatgrass. And normally I'm up here, I like to go last because I'm usually the only raw fooder who's ever done wheatgrass. Now everybody else is doing it. Maybe he's catching on, I don't know. But anyway, so anyway, I went to Hippocrates Health Institute. I spent 3 weeks there. I lost 21 pounds. I was never hungry. I went in there at, anyway, I was down to like 190 when I left. I now weigh about 190. Up a little bit since the holidays, and we've been coming every year, but we didn't come last year, so we're here to renew our vows, our vegan vows. I've been bad, and I've learned a lot of things that I've been doing wrong, but keep coming every year soon, so you can renew your vows. But anyway, it works. I also have some handouts here. If you want to know about wheatgrass is really loaded with oxygen. It's a wonderful detoxing agent, and it also has lots of antioxidants. You're going to be young forever, drink wheatgrass. It's so easy to grow, it's like a chia pet. I have a video, you can just Google Jim Miller wheatgrass class. It will show up on YouTube. It will show you how easy it is. I also talk a little bit about some of the benefits. I'm told it's entertaining and informative. It's a half hour. But it will give you everything you need to know, and then my email address is in there. You email me, I'll send you what you need to buy and where you need to buy it, all that kind of stuff. But it's, I do have some handouts here, but just Google Jim Miller wheatgrass class, it'll work. But it's really, isn't this impressive? I mean, it's hard to follow all these people. So anyway, but thanks for letting me go last, and we'll see you all next year, right?
I'd like to thank each and every one of you. Thank you so much for coming and sharing this, and most of all, thank you for your dedication to heal yourself. We're going to close now.